Welcome, LilyPod listeners and LilyTube viewers. We are here for another great episode. We have guests that we really like, actually. We've appeared on their show, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, it seems
No,
like.
two or three.
2 or 3 times,
Do
anyway.
you guys remember? I think it was three.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
about 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are a relatively newlywed couple who met and married as mid-singles. And so I'm going to turn it over to Cathy to introduce Everett, Ulbricht, and Celeste.
All right. Celeste Miller was raised in Utah in a single parent, less active family. She would go to church. Some days she would walk there alone. In her early 20s, she met and married a man with a similar background. Together, they became active members of the church, and Celeste is still active to this day. Along the way, she was blessed with 4 amazing children, 2 adopted and 2 biological. After a 25-year marriage, a divorce introduced her to the LDS singles world. She currently is enrolled in her senior year at BYUI for a marriage and family degree. Celeste enjoys reading, writing, genealogy, playing the Settlers of Catan, reality TV shows, and spending time with her kids. And Everett Ulbricht, are we saying that right? Ulbricht?
It's Ulbricht, but I don't even think I say it correctly. Yeah.
Okay. Everett was born in Texas, but moved to Chicago and then to Denver, where he became an ardent Denver Broncos fan before his family finally settled down in Washington. His parents joined the church when living in Chicago, and Everett was still young. And Everett served a mission in Moscow, Russia, not longer after the Russian mission opened up. He's hopeful that the day will come when missionaries might return there. He holds an MBA from Washington State University with additional graduate work in public affairs and public administration. He has 2 beautiful daughters from a previous marriage and is now married to the beautiful Celeste. Celeste and Everett met on a Facebook LDS singles group.
Just like us.
Yeah.
From their first conversation, Celeste was hooked. Everett was a little more cautious, but in the end, they were married after chatting daily for almost 2 years. They considered themselves the king and queen of LDRs, long distance relationships, because not only did they live 2,000 miles apart while dating, but they live 2,000 miles apart now while they're married. And we're excited to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Summer, the plan is for them both to relocate to Utah together. And they built the LDS Singles Flameless Fireside podcast together. And that focuses on supporting and uplifting LDS singles. They enjoy taking walks together, going to movies, trying new foods, and playful banter. Everett enjoys adding movies to Celeste's watched list. So like as if she's already watched them while taking a nap beside her. Their blended family now has 6 children. I think they're all girls, right?
No, 1 boy.
Oh, you do have 1 boy. Okay.
Yep, I do.
And so lots of girls.
Lots
And
of girls.
they both and both of them enjoy the role of step parent for each other's kids. Everett and Celeste will be getting sealed in the Ogden Temple in spring of 2023. Welcome, Celeste and Everett. That was such a great snapshot. I mean, like, you've been on the Flameless Fireside podcast and everybody knows your faces and your names in this singles community, but they don't necessarily know your background. So I think that's really interesting and great to share, just to know a little bit more about you personally. And you got married, remind me what day?
We'll let Everett answer that one.
Oh, look at this test. See, she thinks I was probably sleeping during that too, because I fall asleep.
Probably.
August 12th.
August 12th. Yes. And you want
We
to
were
tell
there
our,
virtually.
yes.
Yes, you were.
Would
Thank
you tell our audience? Yeah, we felt very special to be invited because I know you didn't just invite everyone.
We didn't. No.
But you did want like an audience, and you wanted to, and you did it uniquely. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay,
Well,
Celeste, I answered the first one.
Okay,
This
no,
is
that's
you.
fine.
There you go.
So this is the thing. So I mean, Everett was up for anything. He was like, I don't care, however you want to do this wedding, that's fine. There's a lot of moving parts because we're 2,000 miles apart and trying to get kids together and exes to allow time and all of those things. So I was kind of getting a little stressed out and anxious, just trying to figure out how to make it work. So me being the easy way out kind of gal, I was like, you know what? Hey, let's just do it virtually. And everyone can just zoom in and watch us. I mean, this is COVID times, so it's totally acceptable. So that's actually what we did. We literally had like a handful of people there just as witnesses and his bishop for the actual ceremony. And then everyone else was zoomed into the meeting. So, or to the ceremony. So
Yeah, it was cool.
At least
that's
you
how we did
weren't
it.
virtual. You got to actually kiss
No.
each other in real life.
Right,
Yeah, you
right,
know
right.
what? It was kind of fun because it was low key, no stress. I mean, just a few hours prior to our ceremony, we were out riding around a park on scooters and eating Thai food. So, you know, it worked for us. So,
Yeah.
so we did.
And from there, you went on a brief honeymoon, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, local, but yeah, just hung out together.
Yeah, we kind of just did some like real simple stuff to start off with. You know, we did some we went up to here in Portland, we have Mount Hood and they have the Alpine slides. And so we went up to that and they kind of have some other recreational activities. So we went up to that so Celeste could crash and like roll down the mountain a couple different times.
Nice.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
So
okay.
like people going up, you take the little, you know, the ski lift and people can see her just crashing down on these little carts coming down. I'm down at the bottom waiting for her, like, I wonder what's taking her so long. She shows up like, oh, I crashed again. All these skid marks and everything all over her. So,
Yeah.
so that was kind of our little mini honeymoon. And we're probably going to do the big one once we do the ceiling. So
Right.
just something kind of to start off and then a big,
Well,
you know,
and
something
for
else.
you, local
Mhm.
is 2,000 miles apart. And so anything local in either of your areas is like a honeymoon, right?
For one of us, yeah, exactly. So, so
I
I
have
was on a
been
honeymoon.
both.
I was on a vacay.
I have lived in both Washington and Texas, just for the record.
Nice. So have
Awesome.
I,
3
actually.
years in Texas, about a decade in Washington.
Okay, which is better?
Well, I like the politics in Texas better.
Amen.
The
Yes.
scenery in Washington is hard to beat.
Well, that's true. During the
I
summer.
liked them both in a lot of ways. I mean, you can't beat Texas barbecue either. So
No, you cannot.
there's a lot of cool stuff to do there.
Yeah.
I want to take you back to something you said in your introduction, or something in your introductions. You talked about meeting on a singles group in Facebook. Now, who, if you remember, who first reached out and why? What was the attraction, or, you know, what caught your attention?
Okay, is it my turn? I
It
see
has to be
Celeste
because you're the
kinda-
one who
she's
first
giving me the
reached
look.
out. I
So,
don't know those
okay.
answers.
I'm going to be honest, like completely shallow reasons. I reached out to her because she was cute. I mean, just being straightforward as a guy, you know, we can come up with all of these lies and say, oh, well, I loved her sweet spirit or something. Nonsense. The guys we look at and say, okay, she's cute. I want to get to know her a little bit better. So I reached out to her, you know, I just didn't think a whole lot about it, but thought I'd say hi. And, you know, if something comes of it, great. If it doesn't, then okay. So,
Well, if you clicked, you probably clicked on her profile at some point and saw that she was cute. So what was it that caused you to click on her profile?
well, okay, so let's be honest. If you've been on any of these groups for any length of time, when a cute girl posts something on there, it's like ravenous wolves just like going after like prey, right? So the guys just descend and they're just gonna explode like the messages, the DMs, all that kind of stuff. And so when I saw her post her picture, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, here comes another one, right? Like she's gonna, I think I actually said that to her, like, well, just be prepared because you're about to be inundated by a whole bunch of messages from weird guys, marriage proposals, all kinds of weirdness. It's coming your way. And so, yeah, I mean, I think from that, she didn't say anything at first. She's like, oh, okay, thanks. And so I just let it go. And then like a few days later, I thought, well, maybe I'll just reach out a little bit more. And so I think we just started chatting then. And then, gosh, we would chat. It was weird. Like we would talk on the phone or chat, and it would be like 8 hours. Like, okay, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Like I got to go to bed because I still have to work in the morning.
So you've got good conversational chemistry.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And Celeste, when he like reached out to you and his first message was humorous, I know that you were looking for someone that could make you laugh.
Yep. That's like, honestly, someone who makes me laugh or a funny personality is like the first thing I look for. It's the first thing that attracts me. I mean, other than visually, obviously, but yeah. So he was witty on his little reply, and granted, he was correct. There was a lot of people messaging and reaching out and things, and it was overwhelming. But he stood out because he was funny, right?
I was like, it made him stand out.
Like
He's like, oh, yeah, he was right. And he was funny.
And I went back and I'm like, oh, you were so right. Thanks for the warning. But
I was going to say it is funny. And he may have been trying to be funny at that moment, but what he said was true.
Oh, 100% true. So yeah, so when he finally, honestly, I interacted with him, a little bit on the post and was like, yeah, you're so true. You're so right. And I actually clicked on his photo and checked out his profile. I was like, oh, okay, he's hot. That's cool. And then I kind of then I just kept getting people, and it was kind of like shifted from all the other people. And then he reached out, a couple of days later. I was like, oh, this is the hot guy. Okay, cool. And so I started, I was like, great, but then as soon as we started talking in Messenger and actually sending each other novels back and forth, it was, I was like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? Where did he come from? So I was on board early on. So yeah.
I think your internet just froze up, Celeste. So there you go.
There you go.
Whoops.
So I mean,
gotta pay AOL online again. Make sure you chip in that quarter so they can keep your bandwidth up.
Oh my God.
Everett was very honest that the initial attraction was physical. Celeste more or less confirmed that was happening on her end.
Yep.
Now, why do you think so many people in the Latter-day Saint community are afraid to admit that plays a role in, they go and say, looks don't matter. I wonder if it's some sort of virtue signaling or something. But what do you think is happening in that we're so afraid to admit that plays a role in who we want to get to know and who we want to be with?
Who do you want to answer this?
Either of you or both, maybe. Maybe
you
both.
Want to take a stab first, Celeste?
Okay, sure, I'll go first. Okay, so the truth is you're spot on. I mean, that's just an innate thing that the Lord has put in within us, right? Like we need to be attracted to somebody to want to check them out and see, are we interested in them? Do we want to engage in a conversation, in a relationship, in a marriage, whatever? And it is interesting that people try to kind of push that aside. And I think it's because of a self-esteem issue. I think they're like, I want to be accepted for who I am on the inside versus who I am on the outside, especially in the mid-singles and older singles world, because we've changed so much since our early years. And we're probably we don't feel quite as attractive as we did maybe in our 20s. And so we would like someone to kind of look past our post-baby bellies and whatever, and just see us for who we are on the inside. But it doesn't change the fact that we still need to try to present our best self on the outside, because the truth is physical attraction is the first thing that happens between somebody, even online, especially online, because you're using a lot of photos. You're trying to attract with photo. If the photo attracts, then they'll read or they'll look into your profile or things like that. But if there's no attraction in that initial photo, it's harder to have something come about. So
well, I know some people don't post photos.
Yeah, because
for the same reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it almost feels like they're hiding themselves.
And they are hiding,
just being who they are, and
or they'll
looking
post
how they
one
look.
that's 15 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I bet you there's somebody here that has a 10-year-old photo, but I'm not going to point that out. I'm not going to
I
point
literally
that out.
never update my Facebook
No
page,
pointing
so-
fingers.
Not that we're like pointing out, highlighting people here, but no, you're absolutely right. Like they're either hiding or they'll just do profile, like chest up because they don't want to show their body, things like that. And the truth is like just own who you are, present your best self, and be confident in who you are. So, but you're absolutely correct about that.
So
Yeah.
Everett, what's your thought on that?
Well, here's the thing. I think when you look at younger groups, like the young single adults, it's less of a complaint and an issue. But it becomes more and more difficult as people age because we tend to lose our looks, right? We get older, we get wrinkly, we get chubbier, whatever it might be. And so for the girls, that becomes kind of like this because girls are very much into their own self-image, right? Like that's kind of how society gears people. And for the guys, a lot of guys just start thinking, well, I'm not liking what I'm seeing around me at my age, or like even looking forward a little bit. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to step down 10 years, 15 years and try and go that way, try and find that beauty again. And a lot of the girls start to feel kind of left out, right? Like, hey, this seems like unfair. Like I can't stop the aging, right? But it becomes sort of a thing to say like, hey, I don't know how else to present this. So I'm just going to say looks shouldn't matter. And of course they should, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing. And it becomes more and more difficult as we get older. I mean, imagine being a widowed couple at 70 or something like that, and you got to find somebody else at 70. That's why you get some of these guys who just, they can't get over that hump, and then they're creeping out and contacting girls that are in their 30s or something, and they're like, why are these old guys contacting me? And well, it's because they haven't figured out like the looks game is no longer like really in play per se.
Well, I'd like to just offer my own perspective, and I think it's a little bit unique, but I think that we get better looking as we age. I know a lot of people don't think that, but I do. And I think that people are better looking or worse looking based on who they are. Like I really think that it comes out in our face. It comes out in our bodies and our body language, who we are. And when you get to know someone, I mean, they can get more or less attractive depending on how
Absolutely
how they show
100%.
up in life. And so I don't know, I almost kind of want to just put it out there that, maybe we could, I mean, I don't know why. Since I was young, I've always been that way since I was a teenager. And I don't know.
Did you have a crush on older guys when you were a teenager?
No, that's not what I mean.
I'm
like,
just curious. It's
Oh,
okay.
he does now.
If you did, it's fine.
actually, I do.
Now you do.
It's really not about the age. I think is how do we grow and what are we looking at? Like, and yeah, you initially, I think that they have a handsome face, or I think they, they're cute and with their smile or whatever. Like, I think that can play a role, but I do think as we get to know each other, and I think it's good to be open to that, because I know there's someone who showed up and he wasn't hiding. He placed his pictures, and I was like a little almost. It's one of those apps where I hadn't paid for it, so I couldn't see him until I paid for the app, and then when I saw him, I was like, oh. Like, but then I went ahead and went on a date with him because we had such great conversational chemistry. And I don't know why, but in person, like he was so attractive to me, so much different than a photo.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
because guys
so-
can't take photos. That's right. They can't take selfies.
I can't take a photo to save my life.
They're
I'm the worst.
they're not very good at taking selfies of themselves. Like that's an issue.
Well,
No,
I
my
also think
selfies
that in
are
person
great.
it can, like the pheromones, like, the smells and, I mean, all those things can play a factor. So I think until we meet a person in person, we don't really know.
See, and I think this
I
is a
agree.
really interesting point too, because a lot of people, as we get older, I mean, they might be more attracted to you, but I mean, I would argue, like, take a look at like Kirstie Alley, who just passed away, when she was like, in her 20s and in her prime versus like when she's older, right? Like there's just a difference there. But the thing that makes it very important is for those people who feel like, okay, maybe I've lost a step in my looks, which happens, whatever, right? But if their personality is still good, right? Like they stand out and they're just fun to be around. That is so much more attractive, because you're right. As we get older, attraction becomes about different things. Now, as guys, looks is still kind of like the initial step, right? Like that's what we probably notice when somebody first walks into a room. Are they cute or not? But there are girls that I've met too that, gosh, she's just so awesome. Like on a physical level, when I first met her, not that attractive. But once you get to know them, like this girl's really cool. Like it's totally different. And
Or
so
it could be opposite, like someone's gorgeous and then you get to know them, you're like,
right, like the Shallow Hal movie, right? Like, you know, so that's the hard thing, is like people who are struggling to feel that, like, you don't understand the power of like that positive personality and just being upbeat and being, everybody's got that attractive personality, that magnetic personality, right? It just depends what you attract. And so if you've kind of got a sour attitude, like it's not going to help your cause any. Like be happy and you'll be surprised like what you will attract from that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for people who feel less than themselves to just really let that personality shine through and be happy and just watch what you'll attract. You'll be amazed. So
I agree.
I'm going to tell you something that I experienced along these same lines. And I don't know how better to explain it, but like if I look back at pictures of myself when I was in my 20s, I was actually like looked like a movie star or something. And
actually,
and
he
yet,
looked a lot
I
like.
could see it. I mean, at first when you first came on the podcast, I was like, "Do we invite Brad Pitt on?" Oh my gosh. I
No,
wasn't
it's the
sure.
preferred
I had
stock
to do a
guy.
double take.
It's the preferred stock guy. All you have to do is Google preferred stock guy and you'll find that picture.
Okay, that's one of my favorite colognes. Love the dude. I had pictures of him, like the magazine ads, in my room.
I did too. And I married one. I mean, like,
There you go.
like, I look back at pictures of him in that age and he looked the same.
But here's
A lot
here's the upshot of that. I hardly dated in my 20s.
Oh,
I mean, I had two girlfriends maybe before the girl I married,
He
and
was really self-conscious.
they were relatively short relationships. Yeah, I was really insecure. And if I did ask a girl out and for whatever reason she said no, oh, I mean, all I could do is look at the wall for 3 hours. You know, I was like so mortified. Um, and I found that dating was much easier for me in my 40s than in my 20s. I would not have expected that. But kind of like I think Everett used the term, I was a lot more comfortable in my own skin by then. If there was a pretty girl that I wanted to get to know, I wouldn't, I wouldn't sit there and puzzle over every word she said to me at the ward linger longer, or, you know, trying to wrap my brains around whether she's out of my league or any of that. I would just go talk to her, ask her to get a soda with me or something.
And after you've been divorced, the risk of rejection, like the risk of feeling rejected by someone you don't know is like nothing.
that's true,
Yeah.
right? And the thing is with the singles world, there's rejection the whole way through. You're either rejecting someone or they're rejecting you, like the entire time. It's like your constant companion until you find your eternal companion, right? So you just kind of got to roll with the punches when
You
it
got
comes
to
to
roll with that.
We did a video on LilyTube called Breaking Up is Hard to Do. And like, really, that is a huge part that you have to be good at until you find the right person. Like, you have to be good at that.
Yep.
I mean, dating was so hard for me in my 20s that when I would talk through with friends or whatever, think about, is my marriage going to end and all that, I was mortified at the thought of having to go out and date again, because that was such an unpleasant thing to do back in college.
I'm
why
glad
would
you
I
were pleasantly surprised.
why would I ever want to do that again? You know, who's going to want me now? Whatever. And yeah, like I said, I was way more comfortable in my own skin. Rejection didn't bother me that much, and it didn't happen all that often. But when it did, it was like, okay, next, you know. And so I think even though I may not have had the looks in my 40s that I had in my 20s, and I had added a little pot belly and all of that, I just think who you are and how you show up is really more important even than the way you look.
And we do think the physical attraction is important.
Sure.
And that's why we went into this. I guess we've been
I-
on it for a bit. But I wanted to ask you, what made you reach out to me? Because we met in a singles group on Facebook as well. Do you guys even remember which one? Because we don't remember which one.
We were 30. Well, back in the day, it was 35 plus, but they've
Okay.
changed to 31 plus now.
Okay.
The thing that made me reach out to her, I mean, it was, yeah, I thought she was completely hot, and she was posting pictures of herself in bathing suits.
No,
and-
I wasn't.
No,
The
no,
bikini shots lured you in. Yeah.
actually,
That's not what the story you ever tell.
no. Well, see, I would see comments by her in a couple of these groups.
This is the real story, guys.
And I never clicked on her profile until after I'd seen 2 or 3 of them, and I thought, she makes insightful comments and they're positive. And so then I clicked on her picture and I thought, wow, she looks like a 1940s movie star. And so I sent her a friend request. But she also says that I stood out to her for the same reasons, that I would make positive comments instead of bitter comments and things like that.
Okay, quick question, Jeff. Did you send her a friend request before you ever talked to her? Was it one of those situations?
Oh, yes.
And I accepted because I
Okay.
noticed the same that he found in me. And
Right.
I felt like this is a legit person. It's like, I know him well enough from the comments he's made. Yeah, he's cool. Like, I'm good.
Did you guys at least comment back and forth? It wasn't just like out of the blue, like
I
I
think
see this
so.
girl on Facebook and
No, I
here's
think
the
there was a
friend
little bit of
request.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there was a little bit of interaction, but he was dating someone when he requested my friendship, so he didn't reach out at that time. And then when he did reach out, he was like, "Hey," and then like I didn't reply to that, and he's like,
Yeah.
"What's
Yeah.
up?" And then I didn't reply to that either. It wasn't until he made a witty comment. I think it was something like "Happy
29th or
birthday
something.
29th" when I was turning, I don't know,
36
36
or
or something.
37.
Anyway. And I'm like, I really like to be my age. I love to like be the age I am because it's where I am and I'm good with that. And so I corrected him on that, and that got the conversation going.
Yeah, the first couple times were probably a little too soon after the breakup from the former girlfriend.
Well, and they
I
were
didn't-
not at all as like clever as he is as a person. Hey,
Yeah. Yeah. You want to present your
In
best
my
self.
defense, I will say that usually if I made a really brief remark like that, I was trying to see if they were even online, but she has told me many times since then that no, unless you're a little bit creative, I didn't accept messages from strangers. So. Anyway, so how did you guys feel? I mean, you're the masters of the LDR. How did you feel about long distance dating?
yes, I want to hear all about this.
Was it a big impediment or deterrent to either of you
As
or
the
both?
king and queen of LDRs, we need to be taught by you for those
We'll
who
let
are
the queen
listening who
speak
might
on
be
this
in
one first.
I got the queen go first. Ah,
Yes, the queen
I
goes first.
trained him well. Okay. So
Yes.
the thing is with LDRs, and I'm not gonna lie, they're harder, I think, than a local relationship, obviously, and I think they move slower. I think you can but at the same time, I think you can get to know them on a deeper level, like personally, like through written word, through phone conversations, where you're not kind of, distracted by looks and hey, I want to kiss this person or whatever. In the moment, you're like actually connected. Learning about each other. But I do think that LDRs take a lot more patience. I think they take a lot of trust. And I think that, there comes a time when you're just going to have to realize, hey, I'm here living my life and the other individual is there living their life. And sometimes things don't line up as you would like them to. And okay, we haven't talked all day. That doesn't mean he's off, dating someone else. It means that he's got a life going on, and that I need to be patient and give space for him to live his life. And he needs to offer that to me for me to live my life. So they're I think there has to be a certain
Like the
level of
opposite of
maturity.
codependence.
Yeah,
Really.
exactly. Actually, yeah. There's
I
a there's a
was-
level of maturity that needs to come about, and a level of just self-confidence and a commitment that's beyond just the normal type of relationship. It takes a lot more effort, I believe, in my opinion. So
One thing that I noticed, I was single in Texas for 3 years at Midland, Texas. So I was 5 hours from anyone.
nice.
I mean, I dated the one mid-single girl in Midland, and that didn't look like a fit. So I found that long distance dating could also be a bit expensive. Um, if you're flying for dates or driving long distances or, whatever. Did that ever feel like an impediment to you guys?
Just the cost is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it kind of always is. For us, it's not just a 5 hour drive, it's a 5 hour plane ride. So, yeah, it's not always the easiest to just, especially around the holidays, to get tickets and get things moving that way. I think the hardest thing more than anything is just the scheduling. I travel a lot
The
for
time.
work, and
Mhm.
so trying to find time to make this all happen and squeeze it all in.
So you have to
That's
be
tough.
willing to invest in the relationship in
Oh,
order for it
absolutely.
to.
I think that's true of any relationship,
Mhm.
though, right? Like if you're going to go into a relationship and you're not willing to invest, why are you going into it? So
Right.
That's true.
yeah,
And there was, we initially started like our travels during COVID when flights were inexpensive. But we've also had to experience this latest year where everything is super expensive. So we both have, credit cards to give flight points. So we use those sometimes. And, you make it work where you make it work. Sometimes you have to bite the bullet and pay more for a flight than you would like. But again, we're trying to line his schedule, his parenting schedule, my ex's schedule, because I can't leave unless my ex is in town because he lives out of state. So, there's just so many moving parts that when everything aligns and there's an open week or whatever, we just have to make it work because there's really no other options. So
Yeah.
Have you figured out how to get last minute flights like for a reasonable price?
no, nope.
no
So you have
tricks
to
in
pay
that
for
department.
that.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, unless it's points, but even then it's like, okay, if you have enough points, it just chews up a lot of your points if you have them.
I mean, you can
But
always go in and tell them somebody just died and you have to, right? They'll give you that. So
Honestly, that didn't help us when someone had just died.
oh,
really,
yeah, I
they
was
didn't
gonna
give
say
you a
they're
break on
still,
that?
Yeah,
they're
we
still
didn't get
expensive.
bereavement discount.
Yeah.
It wasn't too
It's-
bad, but it was a little pricey.
Yeah, we just have to make sure like my ex has to be in town for the week. He comes in once a month and stays for the week. And so I try to get that week as quickly as possible from him. So then we can look at flights, so we can look at Everett's schedule and try to see if everything works out. Again, we've paid far more than we should for flights. And then we've also got free flights from points. So, I mean, it's a give and take. You just never know, but do what you got to do.
It's a temporary thing, while it's not ideal right now, it's not going to be forever. So we
So
make do.
Everett
And
is king. What would you like to add to this list of, things? She mentioned that it moves slower, but you go deeper through words. It requires patience, trust, and maturity. It's like the opposite of codependence, like is what you've been building all this time. And you of course, have to be willing to invest like in any relationship. But if for you, it's like in plane flights and
right.
figuring out when to get together.
I think if you're somebody who is sort of insecure in the first place, it's probably not a good idea for somebody like that.
Okay.
Because like Celeste said, there are days when, it's just due to work or schedules or whatever, we just don't get much of a chance to talk or communicate. And that could really, if somebody's insecure, that could really play with their emotions. So that might not be the right person to go into an LDR.
Yeah,
Mhm.
or any relationship.
Well, I was going to say already. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
That's
especially
true.
hard, especially hard with an LDR because you can't see. You can't just run over to their house. What are you doing?
Or maybe someone who has such a demanding job that they also can't be available in that way.
Right. I think the thing that made it easy for us is that we just both kind of felt like we'll just sort of do what's right and let the chips fall where they may. So, if, for example, Celeste had other guys that were interested, and I always told her, hey, if you feel that's the direction you need to go in, then I'm going to support that. I'll be all right with that. And well, I mean, I probably wouldn't be okay with it, but I would encourage her to do what was best for her.
Right.
So I think having that where you're just like, I'm just committed and doing what's right either way here, that really helped a lot because it just sort of took the pressure off,
I
So-
think that helps us because I don't think either of us pressured the other. I think that
No.
even whenever it was trying to figure out what he wanted, because I was definitely a few steps ahead of him on things, but I didn't ever really pressure him to move where he was at or try to coerce him into, wanting to become committed or whatever. I mean, we had conversations, but I think we gave each other the space that was needed. He gave me the space to go date other people if I wanted to, and I gave him the space to figure out if he wanted to become, a committed relationship with me. I think that's the best way, especially when it's long distance, because that's a different type of commitment when you're 2,000 miles away.
Yeah, and
compared to,
even without
20.
the long distance, I think that respecting the space and pacing of a dating partner can be it can help it get from a make or break situation. Meaning, if you're pushing me and I'm not ready, then we've got to break up. Because
Which we did.
Well, we did. We did. Well, and I guess I'm just saying for the benefit of our listeners that when the person who wants more has to be especially patient, and then the person who knows they want more has to navigate, how do I figure out, how do I show interest but not deny what I need for myself. It's tricky.
It's a balance. I agree. I used to tell Everett all the time, I'm like, I feel like, we're in a car together. You're the driver because you're the slowest, right? So you got to drive, and I'm in the back seat. I'm going to chill and see where you take this. And, periodically I'll decide, do I want to, open this door and get out, or do I want to keep riding along until he allows me into the front seat and then allows me to help steer, whatever, the progression. And you're right. If I would have tried to dive over the seat and take control of the wheel, he would have headed out and it would never have worked out. Right. But I also had to do what was best for me. I also had to stop and consider at points along the way, every mile marker, whatever, is this where I need to get off? Is this something I'm still willing to ride in the back seat with, or do I need to go get out and look for a different car? So, but again, that was the space I needed, and he needed the space of me not getting into the front seat and messing with him. So,
yeah, that's interesting. So the person who's slower drives, and then that backseat person has choices to make.
Yeah. I mean, you got a door too. You got two of them. You can exit if you need to.
See, the front seat person should go to the back because they'll have more fun.
Well, the front seat person, if the slowest person's in the back and the fast person's driving, you're going to scare the living crap out of the person in the back seat, right? Because they're like, what are you doing? You're going too fast. You're scaring me. So yeah, the slow person has to be driving. The fast person's in the back seat, and then just deciding if they need to exit or not. So
yeah, so Jeff's idea is just to skip all of that and just go to the back seat together.
Oh, there's a lot of fun in the back seat.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So I'm sure, all kidding aside, that Celeste is not the first cute girl that Everett had the chance to date or even potentially marry, and same true in reverse. So beyond that initial attraction, what was it about each other that you liked?
Is it my turn to go first?
It is. Uh-huh.
Well, honestly, there was just a connection there, pretty much from the beginning. And, I went back and forth. This was probably the hardest thing for me, just whether or not I really wanted to get married again, or take take the plunge, for a lack of a better way to put it. going through a divorce and all of those things, there's just so much pain and all of that that I just thought, I'll just wait till the millennium and then I won't have to worry about all that stuff, right? But it was kind of weird. I remember making the comment to my therapist after my divorce, like, it'd be nice to just find somebody that's just a little bit more like me, where I just click with them. And I'm like, I know that sounds super narcissistic, but like, I think it's good to like find somebody that's a lot like you, like birds of a feather type thing.
Mhm.
So,
I don't think that
anyways,
sounds narcissistic. I think that's what we all want. We all want someone we connect with that we feel like we fit.
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it took a little bit because there were some serious hurdles. Like Celeste had never seen Forrest Gump. And some of these things, these were almost deal killers. I had to like put my foot down and say, like, okay, we're gonna watch this.
Whatever.
So, and
You know
it
what?
was
It's not
the
weird.
probably the biggest
We're not
struggle.
watching.
She
Celeste
still
can
to
watch.
this day does not like Labyrinth. And so we're struggling with that,
and I
almost
agree
on the
with
cusp of therapy.
Okay, Everett, I'm on your team with that.
Yeah, exactly. How do you not like Labyrinth? I mean,
That is the worst movie ever.
it's a mystery of
Hold your
math and
tongue.
science. I don't
Oh,
get it. Like, I'm
so
trying to
bad.
put these pieces together. But somehow, through all of this, we really did connect. And it was weird. It's like just having an extension of myself. I don't know how else to describe it. So yeah, I mean,
An
that's
extension
what
of you.
really in
Oh,
the
that's so
end.
sweet. And yet you developed non-codependence.
Yeah.
So tell us how
Yeah.
that works, because I know those can coexist. Just like people have also told us the opposite, that like they've gotten marriages where they felt like they were constantly joint at the hip, but they were so unconnected. Like, I mean, it's like, how does that exist at the same time? So how are you not codependent, or the opposite of that, which would be like maybe interdependence, like, or fairly even independent with your being in different locations? How do you have that and also feel like an extension of each other at the same time?
Is it your turn, Celeste?
Oh, I don't know. You had made that comment, so I thought she was
Oh,
asking
okay.
you
I
to
don't know.
clarify.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. So maybe this is probably the easiest way to put it. Like, it's great to be together because we like a lot of the same things. And it's just like having the same person in the room. We get along great. And then there are those times where you're like, I just kind of want some me time. I just sort of want to go do my own thing, whether it's like I'm going to go dink around in the garage for a little bit or whatever that might be. And Celeste is completely like, okay. So she gives me that freedom to kind of like have the me time. But then it's also like, we can connect at any time. And it's just like, okay. So I don't know if that really makes much sense. It sounds a lot better in my head, I think, than as it's coming out of my mouth. But she's great to kind of have there as somebody that's, I don't know, it works all the time. And then if I'm like, hey, I just need to disconnect for a little while and go take a nap on the couch or whatever, she's like, okay. So she gives me that freedom to just sort of be me. Or I've got a friend that he and I like to go watch movies together and talk about football and do dumb guy things and talk smack with each other and things like that. And she's like, okay, let's go do you. Have your guy time. Some people
Guy
really
date.
try. What's that?
Said have your guy date.
That's right. My mandate.
Yeah.
So
your mandate.
some people really try and like just pigeonhole them. Like, if I can only get you to behave this way or be this way, then everything else will be fine. And then I'll let you be you. It's like, no, just let me be me, and all that other stuff is going to work out. And Celeste is great at that. So I hope I do as good a job for her as she does for me. So.
Well, it sounds like what she learned in dating you as the slower person in the partnership, and what she chose with that is what she continues to choose in the marriage.
I prefer to think of it like, at least at times, do you remember Napoleon Dynamite when he's on the bus and he throws the thing out the window, the little action figure, and he's dragging him? I'm the action figure sometimes, like going down the road, and Celeste is like fishing me along. So that's kind of me. But
Oh my gosh.
there were times. Yeah, but she is really good at kind of giving me that space. So
Well, and you know what you described actually is what's called differentiation. And that's a really big part of secure attachment. So
With a Napoleon Dynamite reference.
With a
All
Napoleon
right.
Dynamite
Now.
twist.
Listen.
Yes.
no life is complete without a plethora of Napoleon Dynamite references. Okay.
Or just movie references. He throws them out all the time, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, oh, we got to add that movie to your list. I'm like,
I know.
okay.
We're working on it. We're working on it. Well, it
I
might
got a
take a
long
couple
list.
rounds of Labyrinth to get her to come aboard.
Oh
So.
my gosh. I cannot live through that again.
We're working on it.
So bad.
no, it can be fun to banter about stuff that you don't agree about. But in all seriousness, I learned in my first marriage when we would fight about how to squeeze the toothpaste, and we'd fight about whether dill or pickle relish or sweet pickle relish was better. Like eventually I was like, wait a minute, these are personal preferences. Why is it something to argue about? Like, we really don't need to argue. I mean, again, fun banter, fine. And, you know, it can be humorous, but I think when we recognize that we don't have to actually get hostile or argue about those things, like we can just like what we like and it's fine.
Have 2 jars of pickles and 2 tubes of toothpaste.
That's right.
Problem solved.
Yep.
Yep. I agree. I
Yeah.
think that it's important just to let the other person be themselves. Just in general. I mean, I wouldn't want Everett to come in and try and change me. And
I don't think he
pick
could.
my toothpaste. How dare he? But you know, but there is then there's also times where you do, you know, kind of shift and kind of create a new kind of way of doing things because you're together, right? So there's your own personal way of doing things,
when
and
you
then some
both
things
want
are some things are just okay to kind of maneuver and kind of blend, and that works. That creates a new bond between the two. So
yeah. And when you both want to, then it's a joyful thing, and it's not a have to thing. It's not an expectation, but yeah, let's do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't try to shove a shrimp down my mouth. I won't eat it. I'll spit it at him.
Although I have,
But
we're working on lobster though. We're gonna get to there.
but he's opened up my, ability to like different types of food. He has me try things all the time. I tell him I'll give it one shot, but he doesn't, it's not like he's like, he looks different than me because I cannot believe you don't love seafood. It's like, no, that's just not me. And he's all right with that. And, there's some people out there that if it's something even as simple as the types of food you eat, they won't, engage in a relationship, which is really just a sad situation. But
See, and this is the perfect example. So Celeste does not like seafood. Like
No, I do
with
not.
every fiber of her being, like she probably hates seafood as much as I hate oatmeal raisin cookies, which
Ugh.
are evil and should never be served at any sort of party or gathering. So
Is it the raisins?
It is the raisin.
yes,
You and I
Yes.
are on the same team with this too.
Right.
They are just humiliated grapes.
listen, I've said it a million times. When you're condemned to outer darkness, the first thing that's going to happen when you get there, they're going to give you an itinerary, and the only thing served to eat is oatmeal raisin cookies. For eternity, that's what you're condemned to deal with. So
I'd be
that's
okay
it,
with
you're
that.
stuck. But as much as she hates seafood, where did she take me for my birthday? Red Lobster. So
I did.
even though she doesn't like it, she will still go out on a limb
And he was okay with sitting as far away from the lobster tank as possible because I didn't want to smell it. So, it's kind of like a give and take. So
Now, there is one thing though that like we are still working on. Celeste has this thing with spiders where she wants to set them free. And I had told her from the beginning, listen, I am a serial killer when it comes to spiders. I'll kill them all. Like I see a spider, I kill a spider. That's it. Like there's no spiders allowed in my house. They're the only spider that's in my house is the Great Pacific Northwest flat spider. Done, right? Like they're out of here. And every time Celeste comes over, she sees one. She's like, I'm not even going to tell you that I saw one. Like
I don't tell
it.
him.
She hides these spiders in my house. And I'm like, okay.
Well, what I try to do is I try to get him
comfort to the enemy.
Well, I try to
know.
get him out of the house. I don't want him in the house. I try to save them, stick him outside. But sometimes I can't because I'm in the room with Everett and I'm like, oh, there's a spider. He's going to
She,
kill
she
it. So I'm just
knows.
not going to say a word.
I told her that there's a death penalty for trespassing for spiders in my house. That's just the way it works. So,
Oh, man.
yeah.
So tell me, you guys were very hush hush about your relationship and even your marriage for a while. So can you tell us, like, maybe a little bit about how that, like, I don't know, was it hard to keep it a secret? Or like, were there certain people who were privy to the fact that you were dating long distance?
I'll let you go
Okay.
on this one, Celeste.
I will. Okay. So the truth is we really didn't keep the dating secret. We didn't bring it up on the podcast because it wasn't, hey, let's talk about Everett and Celeste's relationship on the podcast, right? But there were times if you watched them, you know, someone would either hit on I or Everett or whatever, and it would come out, oh, well, you know, we're dating the other person or whatever. But when it come to the podcast, we just didn't, well, that's not what we were there for. But no, we were totally, everyone who knew us personally or who were friends with us on Facebook, who watched us in the singles groups,
People
they
who
could
were
tell.
there a lot, like,
Yeah, they could tell that we had, you know, something going and we were dating. But we just didn't necessarily feel like it was, I don't know, that's not what we used the podcast for. It wasn't, let's check in on our relationship. It was just about, you know, helping other singles and things like that. So yeah, it did come to as a shock to some people if they only followed us on the podcast. But we weren't intentionally actually hiding the relationship. We did have to be a little hush hush about the wedding, but not the actual relationship.
So, and you said that's not why we're here, but I would really like to know what motivated you guys to start the Flameless Fireside podcast and how that kind of got going.
Okay, you want me to take this one?
Well, you're the one who started it. So yeah,
Okay,
you got to
all
take
right.
this.
So
you guys started
we're-
it together, right? I mean, that's what it says in
No.
the bio.
Mm-mm.
I actually started
But
it
we
first.
built it together-ish.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
So basically, I mean, we're going to go back to the Facebook groups, right? So on the Facebook groups, if anybody's been there any length of time, you will see sometimes these conversations turn into the battle of the sexes, right?
Oh,
Again,
yeah,
going
often
into
than not.
yeah, I mean, it's just like what we were talking about, the looks issue, right? You see that come up all the time. Weight, height, whatever the issue might
Age
be.
difference.
Age
Oh, all of it.
difference. You know, you can pick any of those and people will go rounds over it. And I thought, you know, the funny thing is probably a lot of these people are really good people and would probably get along really well if they just were to have a simple conversation rather than just try and do little like back and forth quick messages of like I gotchas or something. So I just saw kind of an opportunity to say, let's have good conversations around this stuff. Let's see if we can kind of get people to match up a little bit better and just talk about these things. And instead of just bashing each other on a message board somewhere, let's just put it out there and discuss it because people feel strongly about these issues. And it's the same thing over and over and over. Okay, some girls talking about a guy has to be 5'10" or taller, or she'll never date him. And then you get guys that get all defensive if they're shorter than that. And then over and over. And then that thread might calm down. And then someone else will post almost the exact same thing a month or so later. It's
Okay,
the
and the life
same
coach
thing.
in me just wants to say, do they not understand? Those are just thoughts. They are not facts. They don't
I
have to
know.
fight about it. They can just express their opinions as their own.
Sounds great
Or
in
they
a
could
perfect
just scroll
world, right?
past it.
When
Oh.
when many of the messages begin with the two words "my ex,"
Mm.
Yes.
you know you're
Yeah.
going nowhere fast.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, or I will never, right? Like I will never date some guy who plays video games that's like so evil, like you can't even touch him. Or I will never date a guy who pick your poison, right? Like watches R-rated movies or something like that. Whatever it might be, people are taking their past pains and projecting them out, and they're having these major like battles online. And some of them get really ugly and nasty.
Well, and really they're just hurting, but they're expressing it in this like really strong opinion as if it's fact, and then not questioning their belief system at all. Like it's just become part of their belief system as part of their pain processing. And I don't know. I think it's sad when I see all that like argument, because really like what we need is to be compassionate for ourselves and others, and like be there for each other. And we can't do that when we're arguing our distorted beliefs.
Well, even though I'm trying to change all that with you, um, I'm kind of grateful for all that negativity, because then we stood out to each other.
That's so true. Like that's one thing that I loved the Facebook groups versus any of the apps, like the dating apps, because you could kind of go stealth mode, watch how people interact, post a post to see how a specific person would comment. You can see if someone gets challenged, how they react. Do they get mad and blow up, or are they able to be like, hey, it's okay if we have different views? Like it is a good tool in my opinion. And I loved it. I loved being able to kind of just watch people, see how they interact, see their views and those type of things. And it was a benefit, huge benefit to me. I love that.
Like if you're self-aware and you've done work on yourself, you can tell people who have and who have not.
Oh yeah.
Or at least, and it doesn't mean, anyone's better or worse than the other. It just means they haven't done their work yet.
They're just not farther. Everyone's in a different and level, in a different spot in the whole
recovery process.
Yeah, recovery and healing process. And you can see those who are new and still wounded really severely, and those who have done a lot of healing and have let go of some of the bitterness that usually clouds their vision with divorce. So
the saddest thing is when you see one of those people who I know one guy that became single before I did, and he's still telling his divorce story.
I know.
Yeah.
And I have so much compassion for that, because we told ours for way longer than was good for us too.
Right.
I'm glad we're not still telling it, but we could have done it better. Like we know we could have.
Right.
But Everett, I love that you just wanted to take this bashing and the battling of the sexes and these like just little snippy comments that like really represent a lot of hurt, and actually talk it out and have good constructive conversations. I think, Everett, isn't that like your basic premise?
Yeah, really, if we're being honest here, there's probably like maybe 10 to 20 major issues that people kind of run into, and then a lot of minor issues. So you'll see a lot of the same things over and over and over again. And it's just almost like this perpetual loop on those websites or on the Facebook groups, where people are just, it's the same battles over and over.
More opportunity to vent.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people who've been cheated on. There's been a lot of people who have dealt with a spouse passing away or what have you. And so
addictions.
Yeah. We've the nice thing about the podcast is we've run into so many people who have told us, I felt like I was alone, or like my situation was different. I think a lot of people tend to feel that way after a divorce or after the death of a spouse. Like you go to a family ward and they're dealing with their families, and you can get lost really easy, and you're like, nobody understands me, nobody knows what I'm going through. But you'd be surprised how many people have walked in the same shoes that you've walked in.
Mm-hmm.
And so having those conversations and bringing those things to light with people has been very, very, very helpful for a lot of people. I think we've had probably the most comments about how other people have felt like somebody finally understands what they've gone through.
Yep.
And that to me is gratifying,
Absolutely. And it sounds like what you're taking is these squabbles that like really just make us all feel isolated and alone, and brought it around to more connection and compassion for each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, I also think that one of the major things that's come out of this podcast is that people don't feel so alone. And it started during COVID, where everyone was locked down and really didn't have any of the singles events that they were used to. And so it gave them a place to come and interact and feel like, I'm not alone in this world, in this singles realm, because honestly, being single in the church is difficult. I'm not sure how to fix that or remedy that, but I do know that it's a challenge when you're a part of a church that's focused on families and focused on eternal marriage and focused on kids. Because what if you've never been married, you don't have kids, those type of things. It can be very lonely. And so that's probably the most common comment that I receive is that I have a place to go where I feel understood and I feel like I'm a part of something and I don't feel so lonely. So I look forward to coming each week and getting that, boost of, hey, I'm not alone in the world and I've got other people that are, like Everett said, like that are experiencing things that I've experienced. And
So a place of belonging and
yeah.
understanding.
Mhm.
And for those who are listening who haven't been part of their podcast before, it's more than just like you record yourself talking and put it out there. You get on face to face.
They do it live.
Yeah, they do it live. And you usually have some kind of an interview that goes maybe an hour and 15 minutes, and then you have an after party. And so there's a lot of interaction. And so there's a good message given, and then, and then there's dialogue.
Right. And then there's a chat, like, because some people join Facebook Live, they don't get to get in the chat, but they come into the Zoom meeting. There's an audience and they have like a very lively chat. So they're listening to what we have to say or what our guest is saying. It's just conversational. There's no script or anything that we follow, but we just discuss a topic and then they're on the side, they're over there having their own little discussions in the chat. And then you're right, after the recording's over, we open it up and everyone just kind of interacts and has an after party. And it gives them that social interaction, that social connection that they're longing for.
And we so appreciate you having us on a few times, because we were able to connect with you and the good people in your group and be able to reach some people who, because really that was our purpose in Love in Later Years, our community too. It was to offer a place of belonging, a place of understanding and compassion and support.
Right.
So I know that we have a lot of the similar feelings in our hearts to support the community that we, have all been a part of. And now that you're married, are you planning to continue with the podcast? I know you have been.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, we've had a lot of feedback asking us not to stop it. And I think we still have hosts and guests that are single. And the topics are still based on singles' needs and challenges. So yeah, I honestly think, and this is my personal almost like desire, is I feel like there needs to be more of a bridge between the singles world and the married world in the church. I think that there's a very strong divide that hinders us. I don't think that there should be that huge division. I think there should be more inclusion. And so I hope that people will continue to tune in and learn from our experience and the people's experiences that we have on the show, even if we are married, because I don't know. I think that it's okay. I know a lot of groups and they don't think that's okay, but I do. I think that it's okay to have us be married and still striving. And as you guys, right, still striving to help our people, because even though we're married, the LDS singles are still our people. We know what it's like. We've been there, we've experienced it. And sadly, like when I was married for 25 years, I didn't really think much about the singles. I didn't really stop to contemplate what they had going on. And so this has been an eye-opening experience for me. And I see the need and I have that desire to continue to help, even though I'm now married. So
yeah, and it's so awesome that your now husband started this group and then you were able to come in and you both just have this passion to serve in the way that you are.
Yes, I was the first audience member, like OG number one right here. So, and the first guest host.
So you have been there since the beginning.
Yeah, I think there's only like a couple of interviews that I was not a part of, 2 or 3. And then they started saying they want an audience, want to come to the audience. I'm like, I'll be the audience. So
every Wednesday for like, it's been for a while.
It was Sunday and Wednesday until this year. Then we just cut it down to once a week.
Okay.
Another observation I just want to make about the podcast, and we need to be wrapping up pretty soon, but I have noticed, at least the times we've been there, when you have your after party, people are positive, they're in a good mood. They
They're
are
laughing, they're having fun.
they're enjoying the interactions. So the negativity that Everett had noticed, I think your environment in that podcast lends itself to not only deeper introspection, but also, just more positive feelings, less negativity, more interaction. So
Yeah, I
we
think
like
you
what you guys have
accomplished.
built there.
I think you accomplished what you wanted to and more, I think.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think it's in some ways it kind of acts like a pressure valve, right? We can kind of release some of that pressure, and then people can kind of relax a little bit after a serious conversation and just, gosh, let's have fun a little bit. Life doesn't necessarily need to be all about worrying about our problems. We've got them. We've all got them. We're going to have them until the end of life, and that's just the way it works. So,
and I do
Yeah.
like your relaxed style of interviewing, even because I think you were one of the first interviews we've done since we, started this as well. And I just remember feeling like, oh, this isn't scary. Like, this is fun. Like, and it's not, it's not formal. And yeah, I liked it a lot. And I think that was a good way to ease us into the interview process, and we've since interviewed with very many people, and I love them all, but they just all have different styles, and it's just, that was a good way to ease in, I think.
yeah.
And anyway, so the introspection and positivity, you've got that in your group. And I just wanted to touch a little bit on the bridge between singles and married couples, especially those who are later married couples who are blending families, those who have been in the mid-singles community. Like, of course, we don't want to lose our friendships, and we've worked so hard to build during like that hard time in our lives. And I think also we offer a voice to people who are brand new, who want to be able to see the path between where they are and where they want to be. And so that's one thing is we're going to start focusing a little bit more in 2023 moving forward, because we wrote intentional courtship, and we've made most of our videos and podcasts geared towards mid-singles who are dating and so forth. And I think we're going to start being a little bit more intentional to support those who are, they're newly engaged or newly married. I know Jeff does really great premarital coaching. We're really strong believers in being intentional about moving into the marriage and how you set up your relationship and your foundation. And anyway, I think the reason why I was saying that is just that we don't want to segregate. We don't want it to be our group is only for. It's really for anyone beyond the possibility of a first marriage in their 20s, because love and life gets more complicated after that, and we can all relate to those complications.
Well, and folks like the two of you are kind of the brain trust for the ones that are newly divorced, or the people that are moving through this process. And I think it's good for them to see a couple that's sort of successfully navigated the single scene and wound up with a happy marriage and just all of that.
It's really inspiring, and I think it gives a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, I like one of the things that I believe it was in your book that Jeff had pointed out at the beginning, this would be kind of a good book if you're a bishop and suddenly there's somebody in your ward that's going through a divorce or has gotten newly divorced, and now they're single in your ward. How many times have bishops run into that and they're like, I don't really know what to do here? You do the
so they start questioning.
You love them, take them cookies, check in on them, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. But, really being able to empathize and kind of understand what they're going through, I think is tremendously huge. And so your guys' book I think is really a good thing if somebody is in that position and trying to figure out, gosh, I've got this person in my ward, and I'd love to help them. I just don't really know what to do because I've never been there myself. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be there yourself. Just look and see kind of what other people have done and learn from them. So
yeah. Well, and we can learn a lot from each other. And so I love that, and bringing people together and letting us all learn from each other. Now, you said you guys are moving here, and when I say here, we're in Utah, so we get to be blessed with you.
We'll do a double date next summer.
I was going to say we get to go out to dinner
Sounds
now.
great.
So that'll be fun.
We'll go out for seafood.
Not seafood.
Hey, I ate chicken at Red Lobster. I can do it, I suppose.
We'll go out for seafood and watch Labyrinth afterward.
Oh, dang, no.
So I love that I don't know what brought you to this conclusion, but I love that you are reestablishing yourself in a totally new place. Why did you choose Utah?
Well,
That's a loaded question, but
yeah, I mean, not
In a
to go into
nutshell.
too much detail, but it looks like my kids will be moving there later this next year. And where my kids are, I'm not going to be, I have no intention on being a long distance parent. So that's kind of, that's the motivating factor. And Celeste has family there, so it's easy for her. So it just works out for both of us.
Okay.
yeah, and
Yeah, we're
with
glad.
I'm sorry.
I just said we're happy for you that it's working
Oh,
that way.
And
I
then
was
your
just
kids
gonna say,
are
and
gonna
with
come with you.
I'm sorry.
Your kids are going to come with you.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. So my ex, he comes in on the weekends to visit the kids, and then he does stay that 1 week out of the month to take them so that I can go visit Everett. But he's kind of mobile, so he can fly in pretty much to anywhere on the weekends to spend time with the kids. So he was open to, if I got married and relocated, that he would be willing to just fly to wherever to come see the kids. He did ask me to wait until I was married, though, not just up and move. So, and we met, me and my ex met in Utah. I was raised pretty much in Utah, as was he. So Utah's home in a lot of ways as well. Like Everett said, my family's there. So it works. It works for us. And I can't help but think that the Lord on my end, aligned the stars to make it work. Cause I think a lot of fears within a long distance relationship is, well, how do we, make all of this work with all the moves and the kids and the exes and all that. And it's interesting because I kind of feel like I've gained a testimony that the Lord's aware of each of us with those type of things. And if he's, saying, hey, it'll be okay, just keep moving forward, then he's going to open up those doors and he's going to align the stars to make it work out for you if that's his will. So,
love
and
that.
I've
And
seen it
so-
happen. I've seen it happen in my own life. So,
And
Yeah.
to add to the LDR list that you gave us, and which I've got it written down, and I hope people have taken notes, but I think that what you're saying is really to have faith. So just like, if you know it's right and you're right for each other and you just move forward and get married, then like everything you just know it will work out. You don't know how, but now you're seeing it actually happen.
right.
Right.
Like you can feel that, okay, the Lord is saying, all right, it's okay, take another step. It's okay, take another step, even though you're like, wait. But how is this going to work out? Right. Like, I don't understand it. Because in the beginning, it was in my paperwork that I couldn't move more than 15 miles away. So even when I first started talking to everyone, I'm like, I don't even know why this happened. I can't move to Washington, but I still had that feeling, just keep moving forward. And, yeah, like the Lord's aware, as long as he's in the mix and he is truly giving you the direction, I have no doubt he is willing and able to open up doors that you never would have imagined. So
I love that. That's
Yeah, I
a lot
think
of
of,
faith right there.
I love you guys have probably heard President Nelson when he talked about the time he was on an airplane and it started like having problems, like it was going down. Do you remember this talk or this story?
Yep. Put the mask on yourself first.
Yeah, but above that too, he was just calm, right? Like I think it was the person in the seat next to him or something was kind of like really freaking out and scared, but he was just like, okay. And that's because he knew that the Lord was in charge and the Lord was okay with whatever. He's like, listen, let the Lord kind of steer this ship however it's going to go. And I'm okay because I completely trust in him. And that level of trust from President Nelson is just inspiring, And so I look at it in the same way with a long distance relationship. Like just let the Lord steer the ship, be in control of yourself and make sure yourself is the best, but let the Lord handle where everything else goes and just be okay. If the ship starts sinking, be okay. Let the Lord kind of handle whatever's going to come your way. So
I love that.
And let me second what both of you have said, because I've heard a lot of, I lived in Texas for a while, single, pretty remote place church wise. And I've heard a lot of people on Facebook and other areas that are in remote locations church-wise that just say, I won't do an LDR, I just won't. And they slam the door on it. And I'm like, well, okay, but that might mean you're going to marry outside the church. So you got to be okay with that, or you don't marry.
Yep.
And sometimes considering a long distance relationship, you both know it's not ideal, but, and it comes with its own set of challenges, but sometimes it may be your best option. And if you want to seek, the highest blessings, the highest blessings of the gospel, then sometimes a long distance relationship might be your best vehicle. And you don't have to be able to answer all the questions at the beginning of who's going to move to whom, and
In
how.
fact, you kind of have been just figuring it out all along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so I second that, and I'm suggesting to our audience that, if you're in a remote place church-wise and you really would like a temple marriage, don't slam the door on a long distance relationship that might be the greatest thing for you.
So like a willingness to change, I think, is on that list too. A willingness to change and alter your plans for your life in order for and not a sacrifice that's in vain, but a sacrifice that is worth it. Like, obviously you wouldn't do it just for anyone. You do it for the person, your person.
Yeah, I think that there has to be a large amount of flexibility.
Yeah.
If you go into an LDR rigid and expecting certain outcomes and certain, whatever your expectations
I
are
have
just,
to know the end from the beginning.
yeah, that's not going to work. And I also think you honestly have to keep an eternal outlook. If, because people are like, oh, I'm late. I mean, like me, I turn 49 here soon. I don't want to be dealing with this long distance. I want to be in the relationship here and now, whatever. You kind of have to have an eternal thing. What's a few years here of us being apart? So we dated a couple years apart and we'll live about a year apart. Okay, 3 years total, but what's 3 years in eternity compared to eternity, right? Like there's no comparison. It's okay to go without for a short period of time to gain eternities, I guess. So
That's such a great point. And I actually, I wanted to finish with this thought, is that you mentioned in your bio that you're planning in the spring getting sealed,
Mhm.
the Ogden Temple,
Yeah.
the spring of 2023, which will be just coming up so quick.
Yep.
And we were told today at our so this is just someone in our ward told us that we because we were telling him that we're still kind of newlyweds, but not quite really, because it's been 4.5, going on 5 years.
You claim newlywed status when you've been married for 50 years. It's all good. Just keep it up.
Well, what they told us is they said, well, have you been sealed in the temple? And we said, yes, we have. And they said, then you're good for 1,000 years to be newlyweds.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
It's an
Yeah,
eternal outlook,
that's
right?
right.
Like
And I mean,
sometimes
in
we
all
sacrifice.
seriousness, I didn't marry Cathy until I was 50.
And in the grand scheme of things, you're still a baby.
Right.
When you
That's
consider eternities, right? That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's like the outlook, like what is a little bit of sacrifice now when you
Yeah.
gain what you're looking for the rest of,
But just keep
life
that in
and
mind
eternity.
when you get sealed in the Ogden Temple in the spring of 2023 coming up here. You are going to be newlyweds for 1,000 years.
1,000
go.
years. Sweet.
The Ogden Temple's only like 5 miles from here.
And no more
Anyway.
LDR marriage.
you go.
I think we're both looking forward to that aspect for
Oh, yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I'm
It's a
so
challenge,
excited
but
for
it's
you
worth it.
Yeah.
Hey, one more thing I'd like to add just before we wrap up
Yeah,
here.
we'll give you
Going
the
back to what Jeff was saying about people who are reluctant to get into LDRs, or they say, I will never get into an LDR. I would just say to those people, please, please, please don't limit the ways Heavenly Father can bless you.
I'm with you.
Because if you are putting your foot down and telling him how he has to bless you, it's not going to work out right. Give him every opportunity to bless you in every way he sees fit. Let him steer that ship.
Perfect.
Perfect
And
way to end this. And so thanks so much, Everett and Celeste. for coming on. We would refer all of you to try out the Flameless Fireside podcast. Hope that you can have the same great experience we've had on there. And remember that any time is a great time for more love in your life. Thank you for watching and listening.